What's going on, guys? Welcome to Behind the Grind. So today we are going to be talking about Stratagems, the new PvE game mode that came to Space Marine 2 in the patch 10.0 update. So what is Stratagems? Well, Stratagems is a spin on the old operations that we already know and love. What I mean by this is that it takes the old operations that we already have in the game and it adds these new things called battlefield conditions that really switch up the gameplay and make for a brand new experience like we've never seen before in Space Marine 2. Now, what I mean by the battlefield conditions is that you get some new modifiers that essentially switch up the way that the game is played. At times, you will see a mission that has the Astra Militarum modifier that essentially spawns Imperial Guardsmen to fight alongside with you in the operations, or sometimes you'll get a modifier that is called Point Blank, which makes all ranged damage at less than 10 meters 75% stronger. This one is a real pain in the butt, man. If you are within melee range and you get somebody who's shooting at you, or you are shooting at somebody else, you will deal a lot of damage, but in turn that damage could also be used against you. Or another good example of these battlefield conditions is also the Hunted modifier. Now, the Hunted modifier basically spawns an unkillable lictor that will stalk you throughout the stratagem, and you have to deal enough damage to him in order to scare him away for a little time before he strikes from the shadows again. So, essentially, to break it down, Stratagems gives us new gameplay modifiers to play on the operations that we already know and love. And the thing with Stratagems is that every day you will get a new set of daily stratagems to play through, and every week you will get new weekly stratagems that give a ton of rewards to unlock all of the new content that is within the new Accolade shop. Now, the Accolade shop can be accessed from within the armory room on the battle barge, and as you guys can see on screen, we got a bunch of new stuff to buy that we could purchase with the accolades. So you get some new heroic tier weaponry like the Xenophase blade, or you get some new heroic tier armor that you guys can see, including the Mark 7 helmet with the laurels. So there's definitely a lot of reason to play stratagems if you want to unlock all of these cool things. The Xenophase blade in specific is one of those weapons that I do recommend everybody go ahead and grind for. It is one of the best melee weapons in the game right now, and the cosmetics are also pretty cool. But with all that being said, for stratagems, that's pretty much everything detailing on what stratagems is and how to play it. So what are some personal tips and tricks that I have for people hopping into stratagems right now? Well, let's go ahead and break this down. So because of the modifiers and the way that the game is played, one thing that I will say that everybody needs to remember when playing through stratagems is remember the modifiers. Too many times do I queue up in matchmaking and see a lot of players that just don't remember the modifiers. One of the modifiers in stratagems involves the player having to shout for the Emperor. And what that does in turn is that it gives a damage boost to the player. And every time I play a stratagem with this specific modifier, I always find my teammates forgetting about it. I always have to type in the chat, hey, remember, if you shout for the Emperor, you will get a damage boost. So just remember all the modifiers when playing through this. Or sometimes you will get a modifier called the Emperor Protects. And the Emperor Protects is a modifier that gives a player a 75% health restoration every 90 seconds, and it can restore everybody else's health around him. So if you happen to be that player who does have that restoration perk, you need to be able to stay next to your teammates so that way you guys can never run out of health. So if you find yourself being one of those players who isn't shouting for the Emperor when you really need to, you should start doing that. And if you also are the player that gets the Emperor Protects modifier, then you need to be around your teammates so that way they don't run out of health. Speaking about teammates, on the other hand though, consider using actual real life teammates instead of matchmaking when it comes to stratagems. Stratagems, unfortunately, is attracting a lot of bad players, or not even bad players, just players that are under-leveled right now. So the best way to play through stratagems, in my personal opinion and in my personal experience, don't matchmake. If you have some friends to play this game mode with, go ahead and do that instead of matchmaking. You'll find yourself matchmaking with players who haven't been playing Space Marine 2 for the past couple of months, that are just now coming back to the game after the anniversary update. And what can I say, man? It's a nightmare. I don't like putting players down because they don't know how to play the game, but when it comes to stratagems, especially the time that you invest in something like this, you can find yourself essentially wasting your time if you just keep losing all the time at the end of the mission. Stratagems is one of those game modes that, as a whole, isn't really that hard, but the modifiers are what makes it difficult, and if you don't have a base level understanding of the modifiers or the way that the game works, then you are going to have a hard time. So if you are one of those quote-unquote noobs or players who are just now coming back to the game, I personally want to recommend another tip that I have right here. Please consider leveling up your weapons and leveling up your classes before you hop into Stratagems. You now have access to the Siege mode, and especially Siege Hard. If you're a good player, you can easily level up some weapons and classes just by playing the first 5 waves over and over again, and it will just make your life so much easier when you go to play Stratagems in the future. And trust me, it'll save a lot of players from stressing out, because when Stratagems first came out, I am personally guilty of this. All I did was matchmaking. It was a nightmare trying to get these missions done, because I would find myself, not to put myself on a pedestal or to toot my own horn, always carrying the team and essentially just dying at the end of the mission, because either A, I got 1 or 2 shot by some of the enemies, or B, I just ran out of lives, and so I had a mortal wound that essentially killed me while the rest of my teammates were already dead. So once again, just please consider leveling up your classes and your weapons before hopping into Stratagems. It'll help you out in the long run, and it'll save you a ton of time because you won't be failing missions over and over. Finally, my best tip when it comes to Stratagems, because it takes all of the points that I already made before into a single one, and with this, you're gonna want to stay with the team. When playing through Stratagems, stay with the team. Don't find yourself venturing off. Don't engage in your own fights like you do in the regular operations. Stratagems is all about teamwork. Now, once the friendly fire Stratagems shows up, obviously you don't want to be sticking with the team because you will be shooting them all the time. And don't run flamethrowers when you're doing the friendly fire Stratagems, or melt-a-bombs for what that matters. But stay with the team, man. Protect the team. It should be one of the fundamentals when playing through Stratagems, that teamwork is the way to get through this, and you need to be sticking around your teammates. When you guys get a modifier like the Emperor Protects, that once again gives everybody around you a 75% health restoration every 90 seconds, you need to be playing together in a team. So just make sure you guys are doing that, and you never leave a Space Marine on his own, or else you guys are just going to go down extremely fast. Because like I said before, it's not that this game mode is hard, it's the modifiers that make this specific game mode really, really hard. Even if you are playing on the hard mode, it's really not that bad, I promise you. As long as you are doing teamwork and you are sticking around with everybody and you guys are watching each other's back, this can be achievable. Just always remember those modifiers. Consider using teammates instead of matchmaking. Please make sure you level up your classes and your weapons before hopping into Stratagems, and remember to stay with the team. And so at the end of the day, what are my thoughts on Stratagems now that I've had a couple of hours playing through all of these Stratagems so far that have been in Space Marine 2 daily, and having completed the weekly ones that we've already gotten at the time of recording this video? So I will say that Stratagems as a whole is probably the best PvE game mode right now. It is definitely my favorite for me personally. It incentivizes replayability, so it makes you play through those operations that maybe you weren't so fond of. Like me personally, I don't like Obelisk, but I did go back to play Obelisk because one of the daily Stratagems was to play through Obelisk. So I found myself playing through an operation that I did not like, but with the new gameplay modifiers, it definitely felt a lot different. It gives the player something to work towards, being the new accolade rewards in the shop that you can find on the battle barge. Some of the weapons in there are actually pretty overpowered, even though I have not tried them myself. I have seen gameplay of them. I only have the Xenophase blade as of right now, but seeing some of the gameplay of people using the different weapons, there are definitely some builds you can make around those different heroic tier weapons. And my last positive with Stratagems is that it gives a reason to play the game. Sure, I've always made the argument that we need a reason to play Space Marine 2, and every time somebody always says you should play the game because it's fun. While I do not disagree with that sentiment, the days of playing video games just for quote-unquote fun are long gone. We put a lot of money into some of these games. We put a lot of money when it comes to gaming equipment, and the most valuable thing when playing some of these games is our time, because you cannot get that back. And so if I feel like I'm wasting my time by just playing a game for quote-unquote fun and not actually getting any tangible things from doing that, like a new weapon or a new armor piece in a game, essentially, I'm going to feel like I'm wasting my time. So I'm glad that this game gives a reason to play the game. It gives you something to work towards, and it really incentivizes replayability. And to just end this off, I do have a few negatives with stratagems, but these are things that can easily be worked around. These are things that can be improved upon in the future, and one of them is that the accolade rewards are too low. Daily stratagems may not be worth the trouble if the rewards are as low as they currently are in the game. You barely get any rewards from doing the daily accolades, and I mean, that is supposed to prolong the accolades rewards as a whole, because you don't want players just unlocking everything within like the first 48 hours of a new update going live, right? You do want to have players actually stick around and incentivize people to come and play over and over again. But I feel like the rewards could use a little buff, because for the time being, they're just not worth it in my opinion. Some of the stratagems are extremely difficult, man, and if you make some of these stratagems difficult, you might as well make it worth your while, because some players are just going to wait for the end of every week to just grind out the weekly stratagems instead of going for those daily ones. And finally, I mentioned this before, stratagems is attracting a lot of noobs, quote unquote noobs. This isn't an insult, it's just that because it is the new PvE game mode, it is attracting a lot of players who have not been playing Space Marine 2 for the past few months. So essentially, you will matchmake with some players who have absolutely no idea what they're doing. So just remember the tip that I gave earlier to please consider using teammates instead of matchmaking, because there's nothing worse than playing through a stratagem and just having somebody who does not know what they're doing. If you are a noob, please remember to use those modifiers. Remember what the modifiers are. Level up your weapons and your character in siege mode before you hop into stratagems, and we will see you out there on the battlefield once you are ready to play. But with all that being said, that's everything I got for stratagems, man. I've been having a lot of fun with this new game mode. It's definitely the best thing to play right now in Space Marine 2, and I can't wait to see all of the new rewards that are coming to stratagems, all of the new daily stratagems that we will be getting, and I can't wait to see the next weekly stratagem, because this one, for this week, the Inferno mission with the unkillable lictor, boy, that one was a pain. But that's all I got. If you enjoyed the video, please consider leaving a like and subscribe if you are not already. Also, if you wish to support the channel further, I'd encourage you to join the channel membership for exclusive perks. I'm so grateful for all the members, and your generosity is extremely appreciated. Thanks. This has been Behind the Grind, talking about the new Stratagems PvE game mode in Space Marine 2. And I'll catch you on the next one. Peace!